there frozen in history. And somewhere deep in Antarctica, an Argentine research team vanished, without warning, without a trace. No distress call was ever sent, no screams, no final transmission. Nothing. When the rescue team finally arrived at the remote station, they expected chaos, signs of struggle, evidence of evacuation. But what they found was far more disturbing. Silence. The station stood motionless beneath the Antarctic ice, as if time itself had stopped. Inside, everything was untouched. Beds neatly made, equipment still in place, documents scattered across desks, as though their owners had simply stepped away for a moment. But they never came back. Then came the discovery that would haunt investigators for decades. Outside the station, in the middle of an endless white field, stood a single boot. Perfectly upright, half buried in the snow. No footprints leading to it. No tracks leading away, just one boot, standing there as if it had been placed by something that did not belong there. No official explanation has ever fully answered what happened that day, and strangely, this may not even be Antarctica's greatest mystery. Because for decades, scientists and explorers have reported impossible discoveries hidden beneath the ice. Strange signals rising from deep below the frozen surface. Massive structures that no one can identify. Ancient anomalies that should not exist anywhere on Earth. Some believe they are natural formations, others believe they are evidence of something far older and far stranger. So what is really hidden at the bottom of the world? What secrets lie buried beneath miles of ancient ice? Tonight we go deeper than anyone ever should into the coldest, darkest, most forbidden place on Earth, Antarctica. And what waits below? Picture a continent almost twice the size of Australia. A place with no permanent human population, no cities, no roads, no forests, no soil. Only ancient rock and endless ice, compressed beneath the crushing weight of time itself. This is Antarctica, the most isolated place on Earth. Its frozen surface holds nearly 70% of the planet's fresh water. In some regions, the ice stretches nearly 3 miles deep. If it all melted tomorrow, sea levels across the globe would rise more than 200 feet. Entire coastlines would vanish. The map of the world would be rewritten forever. And yet, this is not a place that welcomes life. It resists it violently. Temperatures here have plunged to minus 129 degrees Fahrenheit, the coldest natural temperature ever recorded on Earth. Winds can exceed 200 miles per hour. Entire storms can appear without warning. And during winter, the sun disappears completely. For 6 straight months, what remains is darkness so complete, so unnatural, that explorers describe it as something they can actually feel. A darkness with weight. And still, people come here. Scientists, military personnel, governments. More than a dozen nations maintain permanent stations scattered across this frozen wasteland. At any given time, thousands of people are living and working here, at the edge of human survival. Officially, they come for science. That is the explanation. But Antarctica has been hiding secrets long before humanity ever arrived. And some of those secrets are only now beginning to surface. For most of human history, this continent did not officially exist. Ancient philosophers imagined a vast southern land. They called it Terra Australis Incognita, the unknown southern land. For 2,000 years, it remained exactly that, unknown. A blank space at the edge of every map, until 1820, when 3 expeditions from Britain, Russia, and the United States all claimed to have seen it, almost simultaneously. Even then, nobody could agree on what they had found, or who had found it first. What they could agree on was that this place was unlike anything they had ever encountered. A world untouched, silent, alien. The first confirmed human footsteps would not touch Antarctic soil until 1895, not ancient history. Close enough that your own great-grandparents may have lived to hear about it. And from that moment on, the race to conquer Antarctica became one of the most dangerous competitions in human history. You know the name Ernest Shackleton. But what happened to him there is stranger than most people realize. In 1915, his ship became trapped in Antarctic ice. For 10 months, his crew drifted helplessly until the ice crushed the vessel beneath them. 28 men stranded. No rescue, no certainty of survival. And yet somehow every single one made it home alive. A miracle of endurance. But later, Shackleton wrote something deeply unsettling. During their final desperate crossing to safety, he became convinced that someone else was walking beside them. A fourth presence. Watching. Guiding. No one could explain it. And Antarctica was only beginning to reveal its strangeness. Then came 1938. As Europe moved toward war, Nazi Germany sent an expedition south aboard the Schwabenland. Officially, it was a scientific mission. Unofficially, many believed they were searching for something else. They mapped hundreds of thousands of square miles, dropped territorial markers, and discovered regions where the ice was mysteriously warm. Geothermal lakes, hidden caverns, entire stretches of exposed land buried beneath frozen wilderness. What they found there remains unknown. Then came 1947. The United States launched the largest Antarctic operation ever attempted. Operation High Jump. 13 ships, 23 aircraft, nearly 5,000 personnel. Officially, another scientific mission. Unofficially, something happened. The mission ended early, abruptly. And afterward, Admiral Richard E. Byard warned of a new enemy, capable of striking anywhere on Earth with unimaginable speed. He never explained what he meant. And then, he never spoke of it again. Today, Antarctica remains just as mysterious. Researchers living there report hallucinations, lost time, voices in empty corridors, the strange psychological phenomenon known as the Antarctic stare. In 2016, scientists recorded something impossible beneath the Ross Ice shelf. The ice itself was singing, a deep harmonic vibration. Continuous, unnatural. A song no human ear can hear. And if all of this sounds impossible, that may be because we still do not understand what Antarctica really is. A continent of ice. A forgotten archive of Earth's history. Or perhaps something else entirely. Because beneath miles of frozen silence, something is waiting. Tonight, we are going all the way down. The stories that emerge from long-term postings in Antarctica are unlike anything else in human experience. These are not ghost stories, not myths whispered in darkness, not internet conspiracy theories. These are incidents documented in official station logs, filed in scientific reports, and written privately by researchers with every reason to remain rational. Let me tell you a few. In 1978, a Soviet geophysicist named Vladislav Karpov was conducting solo ice core measurements deep on the eastern plateau, 30 kilometers from base, completely alone. He carried emergency supplies, a functioning radio, and a trained dog sled team. At 8 a.m., he radioed his station as scheduled. Everything was normal. Then, silence. No second transmission ever came. When the search party arrived 2 days later, they found his dogs still harnessed. Calm. Waiting. His equipment was neatly arranged beside the sled. His radio worked perfectly. His emergency food was untouched. And Karpov was gone. No footprints, no signs of struggle, no trail, nothing. Officially, the case was closed as exposure-related equipment failure. his colleagues never believed it, and privately, many of them never spoke of that day again. Then there is Lake Vostok. Nearly 2.5 miles beneath the Antarctic ice sheet, there is a lake. Liquid water, kept warm by geothermal heat rising from below. It has been sealed off from the surface world for millions of years, longer than human beings have existed. Imagine that. An entire hidden ecosystem, evolving in darkness, untouched since before humanity was born. In 2012, Russian scientists finally drilled through to it. And what they recovered was extraordinary. Frozen in the ice core samples, they found bacterial DNA unlike anything ever recorded. Not a mutation. Not a close relative, not even remotely familiar. Its genetic structure matched no known catalogued life form on Earth. The lead researcher, Sergei Bulat, described it simply as unidentified life. For a brief moment, the discovery made headlines. Then, the story faded. The world moved on. But scientists understood the implication immediately. If life can survive there, isolated for millions of years beneath crushing pressure, without sunlight, without connection to the surface, then life can exist almost anywhere, beneath the frozen oceans of Europa, beneath the crust of Enceladus, even beneath the dust of Mars. Lake Vostok was never just a lake. It was proof. Proof that life does not need our rules to exist. And then came 2022. Researchers drilling through an Antarctic ice shelf accidentally broke into a hidden cavity below. When the camera feed came online, the room fell silent. There was life. Not microbes, not bacteria. Complex organisms. Living creatures clinging to the underside of solid ice in complete darkness, hundreds of miles from sunlight, in a place every scientific model said should be dead. The lead researcher, Hugh Griffiths, looked into the monitor and quietly said, "We're going to have to rethink some things. And if you watch the footage, watch the faces behind him." That is the expression of people watching reality change. But Antarctica's greatest mysteries may not be alive. They may be geological. In 2016, radar surveys revealed something impossible beneath the East Antarctic ice sheet. A mountain range, massive, ancient, completely buried beneath 2 miles of ice. The Gamburtsev Mountains. They stretch more than 700 miles across the continent. Their peaks rise nearly 10,000 feet. And no human being has ever seen them. No one has stood there. No one has touched them. They exist only as ghostly radar echoes beneath the ice, and according to everything we know about geology, they should not exist at all. The crust beneath Antarctica is too old, too stable, too cold to produce mountains like these. And yet, there they are, waiting in darkness, hidden for millions of years. But what troubles scientists most is not the mountains. It is what lies between them. The same scans revealed vast, flat valleys, perfectly shaped, too smooth, too regular. The kind of landscape usually carved by rivers and ancient lakes, which means there was once water here. Liquid water, flowing freely. And where there was water, there was warmth. And where there was warmth, there may have been life, possibly long before the ice arrived. And then there are the volcanoes. In 2018, scientists confirmed something astonishing beneath West Antarctica. More than 130 active volcanic structures buried under miles of ice. Not extinct, active. Some may be erupting right now. The heat from those volcanoes is melting Antarctica from below, weakening the ice sheet, accelerating collapse. And if that collapse comes, global sea levels could rise by 10 feet. Cities would disappear. Coastlines would drown. The world would change forever. The discovery dominated headlines for less than 3 days. Then, the world forgot. But the volcanoes did not. They are still there, burning, waiting, beneath the coldest silence on Earth. I want to tell you about a man named Rodney Marks. He was 32 years old, an astrophysicist from Australia. Brilliant, respected, and by every account, healthy. In the winter of 2000, Rodney was stationed at Amundsen Scott South Pole Station, the American research facility built directly on the geographic South Pole. Winter at the South Pole is unlike anything most people can imagine. For 8 straight months, there is no escape, no flights, no rescue, no way in, no way out, just darkness. And 49 other people isolated at the bottom of the world. Then Rodney became sick. At first it seemed minor, then suddenly he deteriorated fast. Over 3 days his condition worsened beyond explanation. The station physician did everything possible. But he was not a forensic toxicologist. He was a doctor trapped in impossible circumstances. And on May 12th, Rodney Marks died. He was 32 years old. He had a partner waiting for him at home, an entire life still ahead of him. But because Antarctica does not bend to human urgency, his body remained there for 8 months, frozen, waiting for the sun to return, when an autopsy was finally performed in New Zealand. The cause of death shocked investigators. Acute methanol poisoning, industrial alcohol, lethal in small amounts, a substance kept at the station for laboratory use. But the coroner found something deeply disturbing. Rodney had not accidentally poisoned himself. The concentration was too high. The circumstances made no sense. This was not carelessness. And yet, when New Zealand investigators requested cooperation from the United States, key personnel were never made available for questioning. Jurisdictional disputes were cited. Requests stalled. The case was never resolved. No arrests. No formal accusation. No explanation. The only confirmed death ever to occur at the geographic South Pole remains unsolved. He died there, in darkness, in silence, at the bottom of the world. And to this day, nobody can fully explain why. That is Antarctica, the most monitored, most controlled, most treaty-protected landmass on Earth. And somehow, it still keeps its silences. But now I need to tell you the thing that changes everything. In 2006, NASA scientists deployed ice-penetrating radar across East Antarctica. Routine climate research. Nothing unusual, until the data came back. Buried beneath nearly 2 kilometers of solid ice deep in Queen Maud Land, their instruments detected something impossible. A structure, flat-roofed, geometrically precise, roughly 4 kilometers wide, and 8 kilometers long. Its angles were too regular, its profile too deliberate. When rendered visually, it looked less like bedrock and more like a building. The researchers labeled it conservatively a possible geological plateau. Nothing more. The footnote mentioning its unusual geometry received almost no media attention, and officially that is where the story ended. But there is more. Because Queen Maud Land is also home to warm volcanic caves discovered in 2017. Hidden chambers melted out beneath the ice, temperatures above freezing, liquid water, microbial life, ancient mosses, even traces of warm-blooded animal DNA, not millions of years old, thousands. Recent enough to change everything we think we know. These caves are habitable, comfortably habitable, and we still do not know what once lived there. Then there is the treaty, signed in 1959 by 12 nations, Antarctic Treaty. Declared Antarctica a continent devoted entirely to peace and science. No military activity, no territorial conquest. Open scientific cooperation. And most importantly, every research installation must remain open to inspection by any member nation at any time. No notice required. And yet, In more than 60 years, those inspection rights have been exercised remarkably rarely. Entire zones remain poorly surveyed. Officially inaccessible, an unusual condition for territory occupied continuously by the world's most advanced governments. And now, here is what we know for certain. Antarctica is not what most people think it is. It is not simply ice and penguins. It is the least understood place on Earth. It contains life we have never catalogued, structures we cannot explain, entire lakes sealed beneath ice older than our species. It is swallowing history whole and returning no answers. And it is changing. The glaciers are retreating. The shelves are fracturing. The ice is thinning, and as it does, things long buried are beginning to rise. Ancient bacteria, unknown viruses, chemical signatures from another age, and perhaps other things. Things we have not yet imagined. Because as Antarctica reveals itself, it is also asking us a question. Are we ready to know what has been waiting beneath the ice? In 2022, satellite analysts detected something strange along the eastern coastline, a structure partially buried in rock and snow, roughly the size of a tennis court, not consistent with known geology. A geologist at the British Antarctic Survey reviewed the imagery. His response was brief. Origin unclear. Requires ground investigation. That investigation has still not been scheduled. And so tonight, the last unexplored continent remains where it has always been. At the bottom of the world, silent, frozen, watching. And whatever Antarctica knows, it is not telling. If you made it this far, then you already know the question. What do you think is really down there? Because one day, the ice will answer for itself.